this video, I'm going to run through how we will assemble the case for the bat detector. First off, we need a couple of tools. We need a little posi drive or Phillips screwdriver head, and we also need a very small, this one here I've got is about 2.5mm slot head driver, so you need two of those. We'll put the slot head to one side for a second, and we're going to use the posi drive for most of this. So let's get assembling this. First off, we need our back plate, and we need our nice coloured acrylic live edge, because it kind of glows down the side. It's got kind of like a live edge to it. And we also need our circuit board. These are three pieces we're going to use first. First thing to do is to make sure that this little notch here lines up on the underside with this little hashtag maker mindset. So as long as that lines up like this, we're good to go. This is going to go on the top like that, but we're going to put some spaces in there as well. So what you can see is there's a little cutout just here ready for our battery lead. So what I'm going to do is just simply take that battery lead and poke that through that hole. So you can now see that that's now threaded on. So letting this circuit board dangle a little bit, we're going to hold on to our acrylic piece and we're going to grab our 3D printed piece, and these two notches are going to line up like this. You'll notice now that the battery lead is actually going through this little holder here, which is perfect. So lining all those holes up, there will be a little bit of wiggle room in there just so that we've got a little bit of space. So what we're going to do next is grab one of our longer machine screws and then just basically poke that from the underside through, and as you can see there, it's now sticking out. We then grab one of our little spacers or our nuts, and we're going to just basically screw that on. Doesn't have to be really tight to start with, just hand tight's fine. So we'll do our first one, and then what we're going to do is just basically work our way around each one of these, poking through the back, making sure it lines up. And what you'll notice is then you'll end up with a nice little snug fit with the battery holder. Now before we do the next two on here, what we're going to do is just pull this lead through a little bit and give ourselves a little bit more lead inside our battery holder, and then hold it like this between my thumb and finger. We then carry on round, putting our machine screws in like so. So you can see I'm just going to tighten that one up, and we'll do the final one. So that gives us a little bit of space. The reason why we use these little nuts as a spacer is once you've soldered your board, you're going to have little lumpy bits on the back where the solder is sticking through, which is fine. But what we want to do is we don't want to scratch this surface. So what you'll see when I hold these up together, when that tucks into there, when we put our little ultrasonic sensor through the hole and then push that on, you'll see there's a nice little sort of 2mm gap. So if you've got any extra long legs or anything that's sticking through, that's not going to scratch the acrylic under there. Okay, so we've done this part. Now what we need to do is use our 15mm spacers, these little fellas here, and we're going to simply just screw those on. There's probably only about 2 or 3 turns on there. Don't have to over tighten these because you'll strip the thread, so you just do those kind of hand tight again. And we do those on all of there, that one on that one. Oop. There we go, and this one on there. Perfect. So now you can see these are all nice and tight. They don't need to be any more than hand tight on there. If you want to, you can just give that an extra little twizzle with your screwdriver just to make sure that you've got plenty of thread in there, nice and tight. So there we go. That's our first part done. The next bit is then assembling our acrylic top. So you can see that just about on my camera there. I'll make it flash a little bit. And you'll see there's a hole here. That hole is going to line up with this resistor here, this variable resistor, this potentiometer here. And you'll see there's a little slot in there which we're going to use our screwdriver for in a bit. So this then has to line up over the top of that. Now obviously there's 4 different ways that this can go, so you need to just make sure that you've got that round the right way, like that. And then what we do is we take our tiny little 5mm machine screws, and this is where we need our little screwdriver, and then we're going to basically line those up, and they'll just fit in there nicely. Now what I find is easier is if I do the diagonal ones first. You might have your own method of doing it. I just find it slightly easier to do that. It means the other two line up nice and easily. A few little turns on there, and then the last one in. And again, these just need to be hand tight. They don't have to be over tight because these are a PVC. They're quite nice. They're forgiving a little bit, and they're quite sticky, so that's not going to come undone. Okay, so we finished with our screwdriver. We've now assembled the case, so that looks pretty cool. What you'll notice on one side of the case are these two little lugs just there and there. They actually stop the battery falling through. So if I turn it on the other side, you can see that this will then just drop into there. And there will be a bit of a friction fit. What you'll also notice is when we hold the battery clip out like this, the little circular one is first, the hexagonal one, or the hexagonal one is next to that. What I'm going to do with this is just make sure that the battery lines up with those inputs so it doesn't twist. So as you can see here, these two would then line up. So I can connect those together, but what you'll notice is you get this little kind of loop just here, which is kind of annoying. So what we do, push the battery back out, and then you can see here that the lead, when I pull it tight, goes against the side of the battery. And then all you have to do is just pinch that between your thumb and your finger and then just push that back in. And there is a slot specifically just here for the cord, for these two wires to rest against. So what we have to do is just line that up inside there. And you'll notice now that's nice and cleanly fitting in there. And when that pushes in, you'll notice that that'll slide all the way in, just like that. Okay? So that is the case assembled. The next thing to do is to swap out our screwdriver, our Phillips or posi drive screwdriver head for our slot head. And this is the next important part, is making sure that the thing works. You've already tested the circuit beforehand, so we shouldn't have any difficulties with this. We just basically plug our headphone socket in, and now it's detecting. It's lighting up on here, which is great. What you also have on the little potentiometer is the ability to turn this up or down. So if it's a bit too loud, you can twist it clockwise on there, and that'll make it quieter. And if you twist it anti-clockwise up to 12 o'clock position, it'll make it louder. So down is clockwise and up is anti-clockwise. And there is our assembled bat detector. Go find some bats.